Welcome everyone to another nighttime version of Drive Time University. Man, I was just having an amazingly incredible day. Just awesome. And it changed like that. You know, two people just gave me criticism and I'm sure they're right. I'm sure there's things for others to be critical of in me. I know there is. I know there's things I'm doing wrong. But it just made me switch, and it made me want to stop giving. And that's not our motivations. You know, and we all do these things every day where we say something to make somebody feel bad. But, you know, think through your life. Like, how many times in your life are you motivated because somebody says something bad to you? Like, that grade was shitty. You're shitty. And did that make you want to go and get A's? No. It's when you know, like, somebody got a C and like, man, I'm so glad that you didn't fail that class, you know, because then you have to go back and do the work all over again. You ever say that to a kid? He tries his ass off next time to get a B. My opinion, you know, and maybe not always true, but everything in my life that I've always done harder is because somebody encouraged me. And you get far more greater results out of telling people what they're good at, then maybe throwing in some things that they can improve on, but tell them what they're good at first, you know, sweeten it. I think by far the best story, and y'all know this if you've ever listened to or read How to Win Friends and Influence People, is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln on his deathbed, you know, people were sitting there saying, now here lies and potentially will die the greatest leader of men of probably all time. By far the greatest president when it comes to being a leader of men. Like, he brought the country through the Civil War. Nobody else in the history of the U.S. has had to do that. And he's the one that persevered and stood as a legacy on that. Now, very few people go back and learn, like, how did he ever become that leader? And the truth is that he was a very, very critical person. He used to write a newspaper, I don't remember the name, but he used to write a newspaper column that had, like, criticism in it. And so, like, he would write this column and, like, they'd pass it out in the streets or whatever. And then, like, it would attack, like, a certain individual. And nobody questioned his writing style is really great and amazing. And it's what eventually led to him becoming a great speechwriter, I'm sure. But through one of these critical stories he wrote, he pissed off the wrong guy. And this guy charged him, you know, the threats kept going back and forth, but eventually it came down to a duel. So these two guys had to meet, like, you know, at noon or something, and OK Corral, you know, I'm using fictitious terms here, but they literally met with guns. And they were sitting out there, loaded weapons, back against each other and ready to go. And it got so far with the discussions and the incriminating things that they would say back and forth together that I think neither of them really wanted to be there, but there was no backing out because of the words that they said. And it's only through the interjection of the wives of these two men that they didn't sit there and, you know, kill themselves, or at least one of them would have died. That was probably, and I think Abraham Lincoln would say this, that was the biggest lesson of his life. And from that day on, never, ever did he give criticism again. Is what his words, not mine, you know. Upon his death, they were looking back through his papers and stuff, and one of the men that could have won the Civil War for him, and I don't remember the name of the individual general, had direct orders. Like, they had like surrounded all the men in this one area, and if this general would just have taken the order and gone and attacked him at that point, like, the Civil War could have ended years earlier, or months earlier, and saved tons of lives. And Abraham Lincoln, like, distinctively give the message, like, go in now, get him now, this is the time, like, we can end the war today. And the general didn't do it. And Abraham Lincoln was furious at this, furious. And so later on, when they go through all of his personal writings and stuff, they had found a letter that he had written to this general. And like at that time, like this was his whole energy. Like everything he would have done is to win the war. Like that's all his purpose was at this point in life. And so this was like the worst strongly written letter that he had ever done. And it said like, and like if you read the book or listen to the audio, they'll actually read the letter for you. In today's standards, it wasn't bad at all. It was like, I am so furious that you did this, you know, you missed the potential that we could have ended the war, saved thousands of lives, all this different money, and I'm just disappointed in you. And that's basically the gist of it. The truth is he never even sent the letter. Through learning these previous lessons that he learned in his life, nothing ever comes from criticism. And at this critical time in the war, like that letter of spite could have been enough for this general who was already tired, seen plenty of death and friends and buddies and enemies die. You know, if it was Abraham Lincoln in his shoes, he might not have wanted to charge in either. So the truth is, Abraham Lincoln never sent the letter. You know, maybe there was a different letter, I don't even remember the rest of the story, that maybe wasn't quite as critical or actually commended him. But, you know, how many times would we save face if instead of coming out with like our natural reaction and fighting back and coming out of corners, if we just said, you know what, I'm sure there's a lesson for me to learn in this, you know, thank you for that feedback. Because, man, I'm just not really in a good place right now, and for me to use my own advice would be to do that. But I just wish, you know, Barbie posted the other day on Facebook, what do you want most in life? And I said, you know, the capacity to be more forgiving, you know, in this particular case, or just to have more abilities. Like, I don't wish that life was easier. I really wish for more challenges and just be able to handle them better. And I've seen that, you know, this week and through several different exercises that we've done with several members of the team that's going through the Psi Basics. So, like I said, I was riding on like a euphoric high earlier today. And then, man, people, I'm sure they're right in their opinions, but, you know, they look at something. They look at the tip of the iceberg and they're like, you know, I saw this. And I'm like, wow, really? Is that all you saw? Because I saw everything that was under the waterline. And I'm sure, I know that I can do better at this. That's why, you know, a really good mentor of mine is Abraham Lincoln. And when I see those bands that people have, it's, you know, Live Strong, or What Would Jesus Do? I think sometimes the better questions for me to ask myself is, what would Abraham Lincoln do in this case? Because I know he got mad. It shows in the letter, which wasn't even all that bad. But the fact was he never sent that letter because we were able to read it. So, you know, next time you're confronted in a bad situation like this, and you're on the edge of saying something spiteful that can only break spirits, try somehow to be the stronger man in that, the stronger person in that, and lift up rather than put down. And I think in doing that, you'll see some of the successes that Lincoln did, and maybe your legacy that lives beyond you will come out a little bit cleaner, a little bit more like Lincoln's, and a little bit less like people that were known for temperament and intolerance. Thanks, everyone.